All right, so we're diving deep today
Deep.
into Rich Dad Poor Dad
Yeah.
by Robert Kiyosaki. A lot of our listeners have asked us to break this one down.
Yeah.
And, this book is all about, like, why do some people just seem to, like, build wealth so effortlessly
Yeah.
and others struggle even though they work really hard?
Totally.
So that's what we're going to look at today. And we're just going to go straight to the source material, the book itself.
Yeah, Kiyosaki starts out, he kind of tackles that question head on. I mean, he introduces us to these two father figures, right?
Yeah.
So you've got his own father, the quote unquote poor dad,
Right.
and then his best friend's father, the rich dad.
I think it's so interesting how he uses those two to show us, like, completely different ways of looking at money.
Yeah, philosophies, yeah.
Yeah, like the poor dad who is very educated, he, really stressed job security and, like, working for money.
Right.
Whereas the rich dad is like, no, you need to understand how money works and make money work for you.
Yeah, he emphasized like financial literacy.
Yeah.
Not just going and getting a job.
Yeah, totally.
Uh-huh.
And that kind of sets the tone for the whole book,
For
right?
sure, yeah.
Like, one is the traditional path that we're always told to follow.
Right.
And the other is like, well, is that really the best way to do it?
Yeah.
I always think back to that story about the baseball gloves.
Right.
Do you remember that one where the kids want baseball gloves and the poor dad's like, get a job?
Yeah, get a job.
And then the rich dad's like, well, how can you make money
Right,
so
yeah.
you can get your baseball gloves?
Exactly. Make the money work for you instead of working for money, right?
Yeah. And that's a big takeaway from this book.
Absolutely.
It's
Yeah.
about developing that financial intelligence.
Yeah, it's not just about hard work. It's about understanding how money works and how to create those opportunities for yourself. Yeah.
Right, okay. So let's talk about one of the big ideas from the book.
Okay.
Assets versus liability.
Yes. This is where Kiyosaki, he kind of like shakes things up a little bit. He's
Yeah.
like, okay, an asset puts money in your pocket.
Right.
A liability takes money out of your
Yeah.
pocket.
Simple. Right.
Super simple.
But then he goes on to say a house is a liability,
Yeah.
which people always
Yeah, that's the part that gets everybody talking.
always argue about that, right?
Yeah.
Because we're told a house is like the American dream.
Right, it's the biggest investment.
You buy a house,
Yeah.
that's it, you've made it.
Yeah.
But he's like, well, it costs you money all the time.
It's taking money out of your pocket.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it fits that definition of liability, yeah.
And then he has those diagrams in the book that are so helpful.
Yeah, those cash flow diagrams, right?
Yeah, where he shows you, like, the rich, the poor, and the middle class,
Yeah.
and how the money's flowing.
Exactly. And it just visually highlights that difference, right?
Yeah.
Like the wealthy, they focus on building that column of assets, right? Things that are going to generate income while everybody else, they just get kind of stuck in that cycle of just working for money, paying expenses.
Yeah, and those diagrams are so powerful
Absolutely.
because you see it visually.
You
Right.
see it. Yeah.
And I think that's where people have those aha moments.
Totally.
And it's
Yeah.
like, okay, so I need to build assets
Right.
that work for me even when I'm sleeping.
Even when you're sleeping. Exactly. Yeah. Passive income.
Okay, so this leads into another big concept that we find in the book. And that's this idea of minding your own business.
Yeah.
And that's not just about starting a company, right?
Right.
It's about building that
Yeah.
asset column
That's right.
that's going to give you that passive income.
Yeah.
Things like real estate, maybe stocks, maybe you have like a side hustle that brings in money consistently.
For sure. And he's got a great example to illustrate that.
Yeah, talking about it.
He talks about Ray Kroc, the McDonald's guy, right?
Right.
And you think, oh, he's in the hamburger business.
Yeah, the hamburger.
But Kiyosaki says, no, he saw himself in the real estate business.
Oh, that's interesting.
He was strategically securing those prime locations for his franchises,
Right.
understanding the value of that real estate, right? So
That's really smart.
long-term vision, thinking about the assets.
Yeah, and that's how you build wealth.
Exactly.
That long-term wealth, yeah.
Okay, so now we're going to get into a part of the book
Okay.
that tends to spark a lot of conversation.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so this is where Kiyosaki's diving into the history of taxes
Yeah.
and corporations, and he talks about how wealthy people, they use corporations strategically to minimize their tax burden. He talks about how corporations can be used as like a legal tool
Right.
for asset protection, for tax benefits.
That
And
definitely gets people thinking.
yeah, this is a section where people are like, okay.
Yeah, it's about understanding those rules of the game, so to speak.
Okay.
Right, and he's not saying do anything illegal.
No, not at all.
He's saying understand how the system works and
Yeah.
use it
Work smarter, not harder, right?
legally to your advantage.
That's right, financial intelligence, yeah.
Okay, so speaking of financial intelligence,
Yeah.
Kiyosaki even goes as far as to say that it's like inventing money
Oh, yeah.
because it lets you see opportunities that
Right.
other people miss
Totally.
and capitalize on them.
Yeah, and he tells this amazing story about Alexander Graham Bell,
Oh, yeah.
offering his telephone patent to Western Union for like $100,000.
100,000.
100,000, and they turned him down.
Really?
They couldn't see the potential, what Bell saw.
Wow. Talk about a missed opportunity.
What a missed opportunity. Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine?
Imagine. Yeah.
So then he brings it back down to like a personal level,
Okay.
and he shares a story about how he bought this foreclosed house
Right.
for steal, like $20,000,
Yeah. Wow.
and flipped it using, some creative financing, and he flipped it for $60,000.
Nice.
So he made $40,000 profit,
yeah,
essentially.
sweet like that. Right.
Just like that.
Using his knowledge and a little bit of strategy.
And so what he's saying is this financial intelligence, it's not about being privileged.
Right.
It's not about luck.
Yeah.
It's a skill you can develop.
It's a skill that you can learn. Yeah.
And anyone can learn how to spot those opportunities.
Anyone, yeah. That's the inspiring part, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's so cool how he just like took that knowledge and like
Yeah.
turned it into profit,
Mm-hmm.
But he also talks about some of the obstacles that people face
Yeah.
when it comes to building wealth.
Yeah.
And he has these 5 main obstacles: fear, cynicism, laziness, bad habits,
Right.
and arrogance.
Yeah. And let's talk about fear for a sec.
Okay.
Because that seems to be a big one for a lot of people.
Yeah.
They're so afraid of losing money
Mm-hmm.
that they just never take any risks.
Right.
They play it safe, stick to their comfort zone,
Right.
and they end up missing out.
And I love how Kiyosaki talks about that. He says, remember the Alamo.
Yes.
And he uses that to like encourage people
Right.
to learn from their failures instead of letting it paralyze them.
It's such a good analogy.
It-
Like the Alamo, a military defeat, but it became a symbol of
Right.
courage, of resilience,
Right.
for Texans.
Yeah.
And Kiyosaki's saying, like, look, failures are going to happen. They're inevitable,
Yeah.
but they're valuable.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can learn from every setback.
It's about changing your mindset. Right.
Exactly, yeah.
From like fearing failure to seeing it as a stepping stone.
It's part of the process. Yeah.
Okay. So now on the flip side,
Okay.
we've got arrogance.
Oh, yeah.
And he says, don't think you know it all,
Right, right.
because that can stop you from learning and growing.
Yeah, arrogance can be a real trap,
Yeah.
especially in the world of finance.
Yeah, because it's always changing.
Always changing, yeah.
So you got to stay humble,
And
stay curious,
Exactly.
keep learning.
You'll never stop learning, yeah.
So we've talked about like these mindset shifts, right?
Right.
But the book doesn't just stop there. He actually gives you concrete steps
Yeah.
you can take to improve your financial literacy
Yeah, actionable stuff.
and start building wealth.
Absolutely, yeah.
So first he talks about understanding financial statements.
Okay.
And he's not saying you have to become an accountant,
Right.
but you need to understand like cash flow,
Yeah.
your income, expenses.
Yeah, the basics.
Getting a handle on your finances. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like learning a new language,
It is, yeah.
the language of money.
Right.
And it takes time.
It does.
It takes effort,
But the payoff is huge.
but it's worth it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Then he talks about finding mentors, advisors,
Oh, yeah.
people who've already achieved
Right.
what you want to achieve.
Surround yourself with the right people. Yeah.
Yeah, learn from their
I
experience.
learn from people who've already done it.
Exactly.
And then, even if you have all that knowledge, right?
Yeah.
The mentors, the understanding of finance, he says none of it matters
Right.
unless you take action.
Yeah, you got to take action.
So you got to start,
Right.
even if it's small,
Take those first steps. Yeah.
invest a little bit every month, explore different things.
Exactly. Build your experience gradually.
Yeah.
It's a journey. Yeah.
And make that money work for you.
Absolutely.
You're turning that knowledge into power.
That's it.
And that's what's so great about Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yeah.
It's not just a theory. It's like practical advice.
The how-to guide. Yeah.
A roadmap. But we also have to acknowledge that
Yeah.
not everyone agrees with everything he says.
Right. It's not without its critics.
Yeah. There are some people who take issue
Yeah.
with some of his ideas.
Sure. And that's important to keep in mind, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. You always want to be critical
Right.
when you're taking in information, especially financial advice.
Yeah, evaluate those ideas, look at different perspectives,
Weigh those different viewpoints.
and make your own decisions.
Exactly. Make informed decisions. Yeah.
So this deep dive is really about helping you understand
Yeah.
the main ideas
Yeah.
from the book, not telling you what to believe.
It's about sparking your curiosity.
Right.
Yeah.
And giving you the tools
Right.
to create your own financial journey.
Your own path. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is about like giving yourself the power to make those choices, right?
Absolutely.
And that brings us back to like one of the big takeaways from Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Mm-hmm.
It's that financial intelligence.
Yeah.
It's not like a destination.
Right.
It's a journey.
It's ongoing. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's something you're always working on.
Yeah, you're constantly learning, adapting to new info,
Right.
refining your approach.
Yeah, and the financial world's always changing.
It is. It's dynamic.
So you got to stay on top of it.
You got to stay ahead of the curve. Yeah.
I really like how Kiyosaki challenges us
Mm-hmm.
to think differently about money.
Yeah.
Like what if instead of being scared of it
Right.
or feeling like, ooh, I don't even want to think about money.
Yeah.
What if we could change our mindset
Right.
and create a future where money is actually working for us?
That's the power of this book.
Yeah.
It's like it challenges the status quo and says, hey, you can take control.
Yeah.
It's your financial destiny.
It's not about getting rich quick.
No.
It's about building that long-term wealth
Yeah.
and achieving that financial freedom.
Right. Having choices, having
Yeah.
options.
Exactly.
Not being defined by your job or your paycheck.
Yeah. Yeah. And that resonates with so many people.
It does, yeah.
No matter where they're coming
No
from.
matter what your background is, yeah.
It's about taking ownership of your future.
Exactly.
So what are you waiting for?
Right.
Take what we've talked about today, start building your financial literacy,
Yeah.
and create a future where money's your ally, not your enemy.
Absolutely. There's so much opportunity out there.
Yeah.
Just waiting to be discovered.
Mm-hmm.
The key is to embrace the journey and never stop learning.
And that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Absolutely.
We hope you learned something.
Yeah.
And that you're feeling inspired
For sure.
to take control of your financial future.
Yes. Take charge.